I'm Kristen.
And I'm Mike.
And this is
The Business Family.
You're listening to episode 6 of The Business Family. On today's episode, you get to hear a little bit more about us. One of the most key decisions that we made for our business was moving back to Chicago in 2017. So come along on the crazy journey it took for us to get there. Honestly, you won't believe some of the things that happened and some of the decisions that we made. So let's jump right in. Hey guys, so today we wanted to talk to you a little bit about why we ended up in Chicago, because it's a significant part of our story. We haven't always lived here. At the time that we decided to move to Chicago, we were actually living in Central Illinois. Mike was finishing up grad school. I was working for a church. And yeah, we kind of just sat down about 6 months before Mike graduated, and we were like, okay, we just need to figure out, what we want. What do we want to do? What do we want Mike doing? What do I want to be doing? That kind of stuff. So we just started a conversation, and we literally just sat down and made a list.
Yeah. Well, because we're like, I graduate in 6 months.
Yeah.
You're working for the church. Like, I was technically working for the church too, but not getting paid, basically. And at the time, I had a lot of thoughts of what I was going to possibly do. So for the past 4 years at that point, I was running my photography business and taking photos for the university. And that was kind of like my only job in general. It was photography, but I also really was heavily involved with tech. So for churches specifically, so I was the tech director at our church, maintaining the sound, visuals, lighting, all that, training up all the volunteers. And I actually had one of the larger, what you might call a mega church down in Central Illinois that I did stuff with occasionally, reach out to me and was like, hey, we would love for you to apply for this job. Like, are you interested?
Yeah.
It was one of the tech production manager roles. So that's kind of like the way I was going and how I was structuring my education, structuring the things I was learning, doing in my off time from school and work, was to potentially go work for a church doing media of some sort, whether it be video production, whether it be actual Sunday morning production. And I was thinking about doing that. But so it was that, or we continue our photography business, or we just do something completely different.
Mm-hmm. And at the time, we were driving up north.
Yeah.
Almost every weekend. So Mike could second shoot.
During the peak season for weddings.
During peak season. So Mike could second shoot. And Jed was already born. Jed was...
Oh, yeah. He was 6 months at the time.
6 months old, yeah. And
8 months.
Yeah, so it was just crazy because we were always driving up.
Yeah.
Thankfully, our families are both up north, so I would just hang out with them, with Jed. And
yeah, we grew up in the suburbs. I grew up in the south suburbs of Chicago, and she grew up in the north suburbs.
Yeah, so that was good that our families were around. But yeah, it was crazy because it's just a lot. So we're like, okay, well, talk about how you decided.
Well, yeah. So then Kristen's like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, honestly, I don't know. Like, let's figure this out.
Yeah.
So we sat down and I was like, Kristen, we just need to make like a list of our goals as a family and what we want as a family. Like, what are our roots as a family and what do we want those to be? And then let's see like what job fits into that. That's how we decided it. And so what we did was we literally sat down and made a list, and what we decided we want our family to be and what our careers to be is something that flexible is kind of the main word. Mm-hmm. Flexible for our faith and ministry, flexible for our family, and flexible for travel. Meaning we're able to just stop doing what we're doing and have conversations, do ministry with people, loving on people, stepping out, going and taking care of people, like first, and then same thing with our family. Like, our family needs needs something. We are sick. We just want to spend time together as a family, to be flexible, to be able to just do that however we want, and then be flexible to travel. We love traveling. I now travel a lot for work. That's not the traveling that we're talking about. We're talking about traveling as a family.
Yeah.
And so those were kind of our three pillars and so we're like, okay, cool. Like, it's not working for somebody else. We need to run our own thing so we can have that flexibility, because there's not many other jobs that will be that flexible, that like you don't have to be here. Like if I went to work for a church, like I have to be there every Sunday. Like you have some off time, of course, but like not to the capacity I would want, like to be able to just literally do kind of what I want. So we're like, okay, great. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah. So we figured out, let's have our own business. And we ended up, getting some counsel, talking to some people about it. And they said, maybe just stick around for another year.
Well, you were working for the church
I was
at
working
the
for
time,
the church.
and you were a leader in a lot of capacities. So it would have been
a quick turnaround.
And
yeah,
it ended up being one, but
So they were basically like, hey, can you guys stick around for a year after Mike graduates? And we basically said yes, but no. Mm-hmm. We were like, yes, we will stay. But if something comes along that we can't pass up, we have to take the opportunity.
Right. We have to see if there's an opportunity that presents itself, that would be a bad judgment for our family at this time. Like we need to have the freedom to go do that. So our intention is to stay, but we're also pursuing our business. Mm-hmm. And so we need to make those decisions if they come up.
Yeah. And I think a really significant part of the story too is like we literally could not afford to move to Chicago. Like our first attempt to move to Chicago was actually applying for this, like, you're kind of like an RA for an apartment building. Mm-hmm. And you put on host events
and you get a free apartment basically.
Yeah. And so we applied, we met with the head of it, and it's a really cool program. And we actually made it to the final interview.
Even as professional photographers and videographers, we found ourselves using our cell phones to capture a lot of our on-the-go content for both our family and our business. That's why we purchased Moment lenses. Moment makes a variety of lenses and photography gear for your mobile device that can elevate your cell phone camera to a more professional quality. If you're interested in learning how Moment lenses can up your cell phone game, check out thebusinessfam.com/moment and get 10% off any of your purchase.
Mm-hmm. With they
were
an
just trying to place
building
us basically
in Wheaton, and
we didn't want to live in the suburbs, though. We didn't think
we did. We were like, okay, this is our ticket in, Right. And so we were like, great, we're getting closer to Chicago. It's not as much of a commute. And then I remember a week before the final interview, which really was just kind of a formality, it seemed, we called it off, and we were basically like, okay, if we're gonna move, like, we're just gonna be all into Chicago, or we're not moving. Mm-hmm. And so that happened in probably March.
Why did we decide that?
Because we just saw value in being in it. And because I didn't want you commuting an hour and a half. Well, and you didn't want to either. Sure. But it would be an hour and a half commute into the city. Mike would not be home as often.
But at this point, was the studio in the...
Not at all.
So we decided, I don't remember everything. I'm not good with timelines. Yeah,
so the studio wasn't even a consideration.
Yeah.
But we decided, nope, we're gonna be all in for Chicago, not Wheaton, not some whatever. So we called off the final interview, which was honestly for me felt really hard, because I'm like, dude, free place. It was nice apartment.
They were nice places, yeah. Big. You couldn't get anything like that in Chicago.
No, and and I was like, are we making a mistake? But we called it off, and we told them they actually have a building in Chicago, and we told them keep us in mind if the Chicago building opens up. And he was like, it will never open up. This girl's been there for 15 years.
Right.
So who does it there? So we're like, okay, whatever. So so then a couple months goes by, and this is where it gets kind of weird and crazy, because Mike had been doing a lot of second shooting with one of our super close friends, Eric Floberg. And so he's going up shooting with Eric a lot. And he happened to get to know this guy, Aaron Bean, as well, who also did a lot with Eric. And somehow Aaron and I became Facebook friends. We're friends with the Flobergs, but Aaron and I became Facebook friends. And one day I just saw Aaron post hey, me and Eric are getting this studio space together. Who wants in? And I immediately texted Mike and I was like, kind of honestly offended because I didn't know what he's about to share with you. But I was like, Mike, why didn't they ask you? Like, that's so crazy. Like, it's Eric, it's Aaron, like these people that you are doing stuff with, like, we need to get in on that. I'm kind of like, how do we get in? They didn't ask you. It's kind of weird they didn't ask you. And then he was like, well, they asked me like a month ago. And I told them no. And I was very confused. But tell them a little bit about why you said no.
Well, we just weren't going to live in the city. We couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't going to travel here every day from the suburbs. Like,
yeah.
At that point, I was kind of like, Aaron Bean's a little crazy, which is interesting. Because then Kristen was like, no, like she literally came to me and she's like, Mike, I think this is it. I think this is the opportunity. I think this is like that thing that we need to be a part of. I was like, huh, why? You know, she's like, you're just going to be around it. You're going to be in it. You're going to be in it with them. Like, that's where it's going to happen. Like, referrals are going to be passed. Learning is going to happen. Like, building each other up is going to happen. And she's like, so we got to do it. We got to figure out how to do that.
Yep. So we were supposed to have dinner with our friends.
Yeah.
And it actually was a really difficult dinner to plan. I remember because my friend was really mad at me for canceling. Yeah. And, but I canceled on him. And I was like, emergency family meeting.
Yeah, we found a babysitter.
Yeah, we found a babysitter for Jed. And we sat at this place called Fusion Brew in Central Illinois. And we literally just crunched the numbers. We're like, okay, we're making this amount. We know we have this many weddings booked for the next year. I think we had 6 of our own. Yeah. Or you had 6 of your own. It. I wasn't even shooting weddings yet. This is what I'm making, with the church. Maybe they'll let me stay on, and do some remote stuff. But we literally just crunched the numbers and we determined we cannot move to Chicago.
Like, we literally couldn't afford it unless to live in a safe area. No.
And so we were like, what the heck? And I don't know why, but I was like, isn't Aaron Bean trying to move to Chicago? Or you mentioned something about it. And I was like, let's call him right now. Let's see if he wants to live with us. So we called Aaron. Yep. And if you know Aaron, he's like, he's just like the kind of guy, he's crazy. He's like down for anything, like, sure, whatever. Yeah, let's do it. And we got on the phone with him. I was like, hey, Aaron, nice to meet you. I had never met him.
Yeah, you never met him.
Nice to meet you. Do you want to live with me and my husband and my
son?
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, sure.
Well, he's like, let me think about it. Let me figure it out. This sounds awesome. Let me think about it. But I got to talk to my roommates, see if I can find a subleaser. Yeah. But yeah, totally. Because at this point, I think did we say we were going to be in for the studio at that point? I think so.
We kind of determined if we could, I think we said we were going to be in, but we weren't going to necessarily move, but we wanted in somehow.
Sure, something.
But if we could move, we were going to try.
But it's kind of it. We decided we wanted to do it. We're now we moved to Chicago. We found it was a 2-bedroom.
Yeah, it was a 2-bedroom in Roscoe Village.
Jed was sleeping in our room with us. Bean had his room. Mm-hmm. It was actually an awesome place. It was a shithole, but it was an awesome place. Yeah, I miss it in some way, and then other ways I do not miss it at all. But it's yep, we got to do what we got to do to get there.
Yeah.
We can't afford it. So I ended up working at a coffee shop for a couple months when we moved here.
I forgot about that.
Literally 2 months, got trained up to work at Heritage.
Yeah.
And then they were trying to open some new shops. So they're hiring a lot. And then those shops didn't open and I was never available. So Mike, hey, we love you. But I was totally get it. Peace. And it's just kind of cool. Got it. We just got to make our business work. And at that point, I was just networking like crazy, doing a ton of work for people for free, just connecting, making more stuff, making more content, putting it out and meeting people. And it just started snowballing.
Yeah. So we moved in the 1st of June. Mm-hmm. And you probably worked at Heritage till October-ish. Yeah. And then I ended up jumping in officially with Trailhead. It was all called LiveSideMedia at the time.
It still was LiveSideMedia.
Yeah. And I ended up jumping in to kind of take over wedding stuff in October of 2017 and like quit my job with the church because I was doing some remote stuff, but like kind of weaned myself out of it. And yeah, it kind of went from there. But it's looking back, I'm like, it's so crazy. Like we literally moved here not knowing if we were going to make it, not knowing if we were going to be able to pay rent even, and just going, okay, we have to be here. And I think that there is something significant about like just being in it. And someone asked me, they messaged me on Facebook, somebody, back from Illinois State University, and they were like, hey, like how do you recommend starting a business, or, how do you do what you do? And like, you just do it. I don't know. There's no like, oh, well, like you think about it. I mean, yeah, you're thinking and constantly thinking about it, constantly talking about it. But at the end of the day, if you're just talking about it, you're not going to make it. Like you have to just go do it. And that's part of why we're starting this. It's like, we talked about it 2 weeks ago and we're like, man, if we just keep talking about it, we're never going to start this. So let's just do it. Let's just buy the stuff. Here we are, And I think, being a business owner, it's about it's definitely risky. It's definitely calculated risks, but they're also real things on the line, and us having a family.
I think part of
it was a little different.
But I think part of that risk, you're talking about risk, part of it is knowing yourself. Yeah. And like just knowing what you can and can't handle. And how you, like, what's your track record with producing? Yeah.
Well, and you always said to me, I mean, I'm the one who freaks out about finances, who freaks out about like, are we going to make it? Is it going to be okay? And Mike's like, it's going to be fine. And I mean, the one thing you always said to me, you're like, I can always get another job. I know I can always get another job. I can always go make money somewhere else, even if it's not through what we're doing. Yeah. And that was significant to me.
Well, and again, it's just me knowing myself. Yeah. And like my personality, who I am, like, I feel like I just I know how to be successful in a way. Like, I don't know, like you just
just do it.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's it. Like that's being successful is like, I know how to learn. You know how to learn something. If you're a good learner, you can do anything. And literally anything. Anybody can do anything if you know how to learn. And we have Google. Yeah. 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 So now we're here. We're here in Chicago. Things are going well. Yeah, it's been craziness. I think we should do another one talking about risk at some point.
Totally.
Like that just seems interesting. Maybe, bring somebody else on who had made like risky choices too, and like how to manage that. Yeah, it's super interesting, super fun. We're here in Chicago. We love it. Made some amazing friends. Yeah. Like doing some fantastic things. Look forward to just doing more fantastic things and connecting with a lot of people, telling people stories. That's it. We're in Chicago. We love it. Woo. Rock on. Rock on. Love it.